Recovery is stupendous.
Achievable.
Hope.
Freedom.
Empowering.
It's unique to everyone.
It's a journey, not a destination.
Getting a new lease on life.
It's finding restoration after you fall down.
Recovery is having the freedom to enjoy life.
For me, it was finding a way to really love myself.
My recovery is possible in part because of my own sense of purpose.
Welcome to Montana's Peer Network Recovery Talks podcast. I'm Jim Haney.
And I'm Leah Wetzel.
And I'm Mandy Nunes.
Thanks so much for tuning in to another episode of Recovery Talks. So today, Leah and I have Mandy with us. Mandy's a new staffer with the team, assistant director. Welcome, Mandy.
Thank you.
And we are just coming off of the Recovery Conference, our annual event for members of MPN and our big recovery conference. A lot of work goes into it. And so some of us are still recovering. It's easy to underestimate it, right? I mean, I guess I'll ask you guys because this is your first one as a staffer. So how was it for you? What, you're on the behind the scenes part. So how was that, the intensity of everything?
I feel like a recovery conference is a lot different than just, other conferences and events that whether you're visiting, sharing your experience, strength and hope, or whether you're there to listen. There's something different about a recovery conference because we're all there for that similar reason, recovery. And so you're in a room full of people that have, we all have our individual unique stories, but a lot of them are, there's a lot of similar background there.
Yeah.
Trauma, overcoming. And then what's even more exciting is when you're surrounded by your peers that are in the workforce with peer support.
Yeah.
And being able to meet faces that you've only seen on an email or be able to see folks in person that you've only seen over Zoom.
Yeah, for the first time. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Like some people are shorter than you imagined them.
Yeah, like Mandy and Jamie, powerful, strong women.
Yeah.
But little short things. Yeah.
Yeah.
Dynamite comes in small packages. Comes in small packages.
Yeah. How was that for you, Mandy? I mean, you're really new. You've only been with us, a few weeks, a month, maybe.
Yeah, a month.
Yeah.
So the day of the recovery conference, I had been at MPN exactly a month.
Okay.
Somebody asked me that.
Wow.
Yeah, somebody asked me at the conference. They said, "How long have you been the assistant director?" And I said, "A month today."
Yeah.
I had gone to the recovery conference in 2019. So I had some idea of kind of how it would play out. That, there was workshops and there was awards and a big lunch together and lots of networking. And so I felt like I had an idea of what that was going to look like, but it was my first really big project to work on for MPN, helping put that together and line out, what workshops we're going to go where, and making the program. And it was super cool to be on that side of it and to get, I think there was I felt a lot of pride when I was standing up there, knowing that seeing everybody's faces light up and how happy they were. And that was super cool. I feel like I was running around a lot and I was really busy, which I like.
Yeah.
I like 500 things going on at once. It kind of keeps me from getting overly anxious. So that was good. And then presenting, it was the first time presenting at the conference as well, which I really enjoy doing. And I think that went really well to see all the people in the audience of the workshop that we presented to nodding their heads in agreement and making those connections is really powerful and really humbling.
Hmm.
It
Yeah.
is.
Yeah. You put the whole program together. You organize the workshops and order.
Agenda.
Yeah. So I bet you did feel a lot of pride. That was great. And it really, the conference went almost without a hitch. I mean, there was a couple little things behind the scenes, but we were able to adapt and overcome those things pretty easily.
Yeah.
I mean, we've been doing this a lot of years, and some years there's stuff like there's things that happen, and you're like, oh, geez, and you're trying to scramble. And, I mean, we've had people facilitators not show up to a workshop.
Yeah.
And then, and you're trying to fill this. How do we fill this? Can we do something different? Or, it really went well, like really from start to finish. I'm always amazed at how fast it goes.
Yeah.
Once it starts that morning, I think it's 7 o'clock, I come down, and I look down the hall and there's already people showing up, there's already people milling around. And it's like the next thing you know, it's 6 o'clock and we're cleaning up. We're putting everything away. I'm always amazed
Right.
every time at how fast.
Yeah.
It just goes so fast. Yeah. But it was so nice to see everybody, kind of what you were saying, Leah, like, to see everybody. And I know I talked about this in the opening, with COVID and being separated and not being able to do these things. And I mean, we had 2 years of no conference.
Mm.
So getting everybody back together, getting everybody in a room, and the power of that, of people in recovery in one room, was really, it felt really good. Really, really good. Yeah.
I just want to share one thing with you, Jim, is I'm sitting there. Calvin and I are standing there before it started.
Mhm.
We see Thomas coming down, his backpack on and smiling. We're like, hey, because we're all from Great Falls, and
Yeah.
we all three of us did events for their drop-in center, and we're sitting there we're like, oh yeah, we're excited. Thomas is like, geez, I wanted to see yours, but it's during the same time as mine. And I'm like, yeah, this is so exciting. And then he says, but what's so awesome is that we're here, what, 11 years, but he said 10 years after your boss developed a workforce. I mean, he developed a workforce and he starts going
Sure.
into it. And
Sure.
I'm like, that is really cool. And I just want to, you always tell us to celebrate the little things and the big things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
I was just gonna agree with that. You're a pretty humble individual, and you don't pat yourself on the back a ton. You're not full of ego out there. Look what I've done,
Right.
by any means. But there's truth in that we wouldn't have all been in that room together celebrating, recovery and the work that we've all been able to do to help others and to, reshape the way the behavioral health system in this state works.
Mhm.
If it wasn't for, your heart being in it years ago and the work that you've done. So
Sure.
we appreciate that you took the step and that you started to lead the way. You're creating other leaders because you're a great leader.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
Thanks. Thanks. Yeah, I mean, that's what the awards are about. That's when I think about recovery conferences over the years, that's always my favorite part, is the recognition of the work that, people like Jamie are doing or Don Roberts are doing, right? Zach, I think those of us who work in this field, I feel like not just in Montana, but over the years, I've got to know a lot of other states. I've been able to travel to other states, consult with other states. I've been grantees with other states, and there's kind of a lack of acknowledgement of this work in general. And the work, in Montana is similar to the work going on in Nebraska or Georgia or Florida, or, you could pick whatever state. And there is kind of a lack of that. There's kind of a lack of these individuals who are leading the way in their state, and they're doing things like starting companies. And I don't mean just like Montana's peer network. I mean, there's people who are starting companies like, Don Roberts, right? We gave him Drop-In Center of the Year award. I mean, he's running a recovery home. He's running a drop-in center. He's working in the treatment court. He's a leader in his community. He represents recovery in his community. And if you live in Billings, you might not know that because it's in that community. It's in his particular community. And so that was something we instilled in the conferences from the very beginning, that we need to acknowledge people and give them an award that they can feel good about. And it's a reminder that sits in your office and other people will see it. And then maybe they'll say, oh, wow, that's great. Oh, you got this award. And to acknowledge that, because I think we have to encourage people to continue to do it, because the battle, the struggle can be so difficult at times that people stop. They say, this is too hard. I can't do this. The fight is too long. It's too difficult. There's too many obstacles, all those sort of excuses. And then there's life. Sometimes life gets in the way. And so people leave. And I've seen over the years in Montana and in other organizations across the country, people leave, because they're not achieving things. They're not being acknowledged, and they're working really hard. So for me, I love the awards part, and we gave out 4 awards this year, and it was great. Peer Supporter of the Year, Mandy, you did the 2021 because we couldn't do the conference last year. And even that, I mean, just like, think about it. There's 200 peer supporters, and you're saying this individual, Lisa Clark, in this case, 2021, is the top peer supporter. We're going to recognize the work. And now Lisa gets the joy and the good feelings of doing, and no one can take that away. No one can take that away. She's always going to have that, 2022, 23, 24, 25, whatever, if she decides to go on or do something else, that'll never go away. She can put that on a resume, take that with her. And I think about the new peer supporter who's sitting in the audience
Watching. Yeah. I remember the 2019 conference, seeing the awards and being really inspired by that. And really wanting to get an award, that's a big deal.
Yes.
Yeah.
There's only one. There's only one.
Yeah.
We're not giving them out to everybody, right?
Yeah.
So,
that was one of my favorite parts of the recovery conference, was getting to present that award to Lisa. She's a friend of mine, and I know what she went through in 2020 and 2021, and the type of things that she persevered through and overcame. I mean, she was out there supporting other people in their recovery, after burying her daughter to an overdose. That's a lot to bear. That's a lot of grief to bear. And to be able to show up and give that kind of compassion and support to people, even though, she needed her own kind of compassion and support, was just really profound. I wish she could have been there. It really made me happy, though, to be able to stand up in front of everybody and deliver the words she wrote for her speech, and to see all of those people. I mean, every one of the awards got a standing ovation. I mean, it's inspirational to everybody in the audience.
Yeah. the other acknowledgement that I enjoy doing is right in the morning when we first kind of open up, and to get people excited, we give away t-shirts, and right. And we've tried different things over the years. With the conference, we've had a comedian come in one year and open the conference, something humorous. But when we asked, I asked that question of the audience, who has the most time in recovery, right? And they get a recovery t-shirt, I mean, it was like, I can't remember the first one. It was like, Berta was like 34 years or something, like, and then Alton is like 38 years, like, wow, really, like, wow. But then we asked the other question, which is the shortest time in recovery. And the guy said, was it
Couple months,
2 months, 3 months, something like, wow, right? And they were sitting pretty close together. They weren't at the same table, but they were sitting pretty close together. And you just think about that and the impact for both of them,
Yes.
You're in this room, there's all these people. Okay, we're all in recovery, but then when you start asking, what's the guy with 3 months thinking? Is he thinking we're all here with a year in recovery, or you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And vice versa. The Alton with 38 years, or Berta, 34 years. There's the new guy who's just starting out, right?
And they both got standing ovations too. I think that's also the power. It's not just, like, yep, let's give standing ovations to the awards, and that's amazing and really inspirational, but it's the celebrating of recovery too. I mean, the guy with 2 months got a standing ovation the same way that the guy that got 38 years did. And that's because we did it to some degree the same way. It's one day at a time.
Yep.
It's it's not always easy. Being in recovery is not always easy. The work that we do individually to maintain and grow is challenging at sometimes, especially when you throw life into the mix. Life throws curveballs.
Yep.
But I think it's almost more important to celebrate the person with a week, or the person with 60 days or 6 months, because that's when it's the hardest, is in early recovery. And each one of those days when you're brand new is a win. They're all wins.
Yeah.
And you get to the point after a couple of years where that does become kind of your routine. Your recovery becomes your routine, where not recovery and not being well was your routine for a long time, whether that's mental health or substance use. You get used to a different life. But man, when you're early on, nothing about that is comfortable.
Right.
Definitely. I want to say that the applause for him, the gentleman with only, he said a couple months, like it was 3 months. He was downplaying his own. And I think when Jim said an hour, a day, like, you were being real, and he spoke up, and I heard everybody just like start screaming and applause. And I think that he got more recognition and acknowledgement than the other one, which they, most recovery rooms tell us, the elders in those rooms tell us, they're the most important person
the
in
newcomers the most important person in the room, and that's why.
I think about, and I don't know this, I didn't know him as one of our members, but I mean, that could be his first event, like his first recovery event. He's so new in recovery. I mean, maybe he's been to meetings and stuff, but the first kind of big event, how cool is that? Like, I didn't go to some big event in the first few years of my recovery. What a great opportunity to be exposed to so many people. Yeah, and there's always a lot of good energy around the conference. There's always just a lot of hugs and handshakes and smiles and laughing, and it's always a very positive, uplifting experience. Everybody's really into it and fired up, and it was good. Even right to the end, when we raffled off the TV, people were people were like really, they were really pumped up, you know.
I missed that. I was already doing my other workshop.
Oh, yeah, that they were really, there was a whole crowd there, and people were really they were really excited. And a peer supporter from Helena got the TV. And I didn't know that. I actually didn't know who she was, because you mentioned this, Leah. Some people we've never met because of COVID, because I had only talked to her on the phone, so I actually didn't know her name until later. It was good. It was really good. And what a way to celebrate Recovery Month. September is National Recovery Month. If you don't know what that is, or you're curious about that, you can go to recoverymonth.gov, and you can put states all have different events going on throughout the entire month. Our big thing is always the conference and just celebrating that. So yeah. So Leah, what's your takeaway moments from the 2022 recovery conference? What's your takeaway?
For me, events, period, recovery, behavioral health events, they're not new to me. I want to say that I got introduced to them in my first year. I want to say in my first year. And that was due to the sober life, and then once I was out of the drug court program, I started doing events. Thomas Reisberg, he just kind of let me go, let me start, setting those things up, developing them, and so it's always different. Like I said earlier, it's always different when we're coming together for recovery, and it's always different when the majority or a lot of are there due to peer support. I know with my story, I was supported by a peer supporter through a very hard time of my life. I was offered victim services and peer support. I tried them both, and the peer support worked, and so I was able to share that experience, and also able to give others a platform, whether they're on the subcommittee or their talents, give them a platform to share their story, their experience, strength, and hope, and just to sit back and be able to watch them feel that good feeling that we get when we open up, that working our way through those motions of being nervous and excited and all those things, but also to be able to see our audience and just see them connect with what we're sharing. We had a great criminal justice one, but I'd have to say the Native American, the tribal relations one afterwards. I mean, it was so packed. People were standing up in the back.
Nice.
And somebody had said, "Oh, it's Nikki." She's like, "It was really powerful to see two strong men sit there nodding their heads next to you when you're sitting there talking about the power of being a woman and women being the life givers and those types of things."
Nice.
But I didn't realize it. Nikki said when I was talking about certain things, they were like, "Oh, right here," like looking in the handout. So just talking about this. And she said, some guy kept writing notes, and it was Jamie and
Daniel.
It was Daniel writing notes, which I thought was really cool, because I know he's doing his tour of the drop, or got done with his tour at the drop-in centers. And there's tribal drop-in centers, and hopefully more. And so I thought that was really cool. Showed some humility and humbleness, him sitting there wanting to learn about us.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's great. How about you, Mandy? What's your takeaway or your moment?
I there's so much more work to be done.
Mm,
There's
yeah.
so much more work to be done in the behavioral health system and even in, our role in that. I really enjoy doing the criminal justice presentation too. I have my mugshots from the last 2 times that I was arrested, and I
Mm,
keep them. I have them on my phone, and I don't
mhm,
look at them all the time. And I don't, part of being, almost 7 years in recovery, so I don't think about my old life all the time. I don't think about what I looked like or the person that I used to be
mhm,
or the things that I used to do, but I get to use those things to make an impact on
Mhm.
other people.
mhm,
And, I used my mugshot in one of the slides we used for the criminal justice presentation. And it's so powerful, I think, and I can see it on the faces of other people, when I'm standing up there and I'm all put together and I'm the assistant director and I'm, helping
mhm,
put on this amazing conference and they see me and then I point to my mugshot and
mhm,
they get to, it's like, oh wow, like
mhm.
that's recovery. Like
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
the goal. And it just to be able to share my journey with others, that I was in the criminal justice system. I am a treatment court graduate. I've worked in this industry for a while and being able to take all of those experiences to help other people and to help shape the industry we work in to be kinder, more supportive,
Mhm.
um, you know, to reduce stigma, to change policies, to
Yeah.
remove barriers. Like that's a big deal to me.
Mm.
Yeah.
Never, 8 or 9 years ago when I was, sitting in jail thinking I was going to go to prison, never in a million years did I imagine that I would be at a recovery conference, making a presentation using my mugshot and trying to, inspire other people. Never did
Yeah.
I think that was going to be my
Mm,
life. And it
mm,
just goes to show that we can have far more than we even think is possible. We don't believe it early on, but man, we really, really can. We can have lives that are beyond anything that we can fathom
mm.
if we just keep going, one day at a time, like they say.
Yeah.
We can have something wonderful.
Yeah. Wow. That's great. Great.
In my article for Recovery Month, I said, if you can dream it in recovery, it's possible. If you
Yeah.
could dream that
Right.
dream, you can do that.
Right.
People can
Right.
succeed.
Yeah. 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 That's great. Yeah. Yeah. I think to close us out, I think, yeah, for me is just the coming together. I think that was after COVID, after 2 years of COVID and not being able to do these things. And I had that same feeling when we first did a presentation. Lee and I presented in Gallatin County to the treatment court. We were at the detention center, and I had the same sort of feeling, that yeah, this is what we're supposed to be doing. We're supposed to be in front of people. We're not supposed to be in front of a video screen, meeting people virtually. We're supposed to be in person because there's a connection, there's an energy in that room, and you feel it throughout the conference, and there's a connection that happens for people. So that's probably my biggest takeaway is just feeling that and that reminder of, you know, in person connection, human connection with each other. And yeah, yeah, it was a great event and look forward to next year. You
Yes.
know, yeah. yeah, what can we do to make it even better and make it even more exciting and fun and educational. Yeah.
Yeah,
Right.
I was already thinking that
Yeah.
by the first
Yeah.
workshop I had a part in.
Yeah.
I was already thinking that before we did it.
Yeah.
Like, what can we do to make it go smoother next year?
Yeah. All right. Well, we're out of time. Thank you, the listener, for tuning in again to Recovery Talks podcast from Montana's Peer Network. Every week we post podcasts and we have guests and we talk about different topics around recovery and peer support. We hope you'll keep tuning in. Any last words, Leah, Mandy? Yeah.
Just want to thank everybody for showing up and listening, and
Keep going.
Yeah.
Keep going
Yeah.
in recovery, right?
yeah.
Keep going.
Yep. And if you feel it's heavy on your heart or mind, you want to get your story out there for our listeners, get a hold of us. And also, thank you to all of our loyal listeners. We'll be back next week.
Yep. Bye-bye.
Recovery works and recovery is possible.
Recovery works and recovery is possible.
Recovery works, recovery is possible.
Recovery is possible.
Recovery works and recovery is possible.
Recovery works and recovery is possible.
Recovery works and recovery is possible.
Recovery is possible.